My name is Jean McGuire. I am a Kansas City artist. I work primarily in oil painting. The current body of work that I'm working on is portraits, and I kind of am focusing on breaking it down to a 4-color process. I have about 20 years experience working in the printing field, and I was always fascinated watching them lay down the yellow, magenta, cyan, and black, and watching the picture pretty much bloom from that. And so as I was working on my portraits, I actually had a commission that was rejected that I then began to play with, and I started playing with the 4-color process mentality. And that's what I'm working on currently. Nobody is 100% original idea. Somebody somewhere has probably thought of it, but no, it's not a given. It's somewhat unusual, but again, it worked for my brain, and that rejected commission, which I did get almost full payment, gave me permission to be as experimental as I wanted. And that's when I decided I started laying down yellow, then magenta, then the cyan, and just kept layering it. Yeah, and I very rarely blend colors on the palette. I usually just blend directly, start with those very basic colors and do them on the canvas directly. Okay, a couple of thoughts. First of all, I have said for a few years, I feel like we are now where Austin was I think they're about 10 to 15 years ahead of us, but I think the art scene, the cultural scene here is just booming. COVID slowed us down, but we're coming back. I mean, everybody's out there. The other thing that I am so impressed with Kansas City art scene is people really aren't competitive with each other. They are so supportive. From the very first, people were like, hey, how about this show? Hey, have you thought about contacting these people? It's just a very supportive community. And I've been in other communities that were not as supportive, so that's great. Again, COVID, almost everybody I knew had creative blocks, especially the first few months of COVID. Galleries didn't really know how to proceed. Nobody really liked the online shows. They're just not the same. So once we were able to come back, I think it's back with not a vengeance, but it's back with enthusiasm. Yeah. I try to paint every day. Usually I hit 5 to 6 days a week. I am not an all-day painter. When I work more than 3 or 4 hours, everything starts going south. So I've learned I do short sessions, but daily. My style has evolved. I have painted with my fingers. That's how I started out when I returned to art, using oil paint, but no brushes. Then I was throwing paint for a while. I've done lots of different series, and so everything evolves as we go. So now I'm pretty traditional using the brushes and the oil paints. Okay, and the other thing that I am doing is I do what I call kaleidoscope paintings. I work from landscapes and mentally break them down to triangular colored shapes. And I have a whole series of that artwork that they kind of look like stained glass windows, but it's just a mental challenge for me to do that. One wall of my studio is hard-edged abstracts. The other 3 walls are CMYK portraits. When I started doing portraits again, I focused on antique photos of women in hats because I was fascinated by the fact that so many of them had attitude, defiance, even though they were within the tight constraints of their era. And that's kind of where I was coming from. What motivates me is when I find photographs that catch my interest, and then I will work from there. A lot of my paintings started from black and white photos. So again, I was mentally colorizing them as I was working. Because I'm very well aware of, for centuries, millennia, Society has tried to keep women in very firm slots and channels of what they can and cannot do, and having the strength to defy that, even if it's just subtle ways. That's something that's very interesting and admirable to me. Plus, I raised 3 daughters, and you become very aware of what the limitations society puts on them when you're watching it impact your children. So you want to call attention to it and hopefully give hope to someone that they can have that strength of defiance, because that's how we survive. When I started in printing, I was the only female manager. Well, I worked my way up to manager, and there were many, many meetings that I was the only female face in the room. And you notice it, and you know the pressure on you to perform to their vision of standards. We're now getting to the point women are realizing we can have our own standards. We don't have to be imitation men. We can be ourselves and still be successful. Once I was told that my problem growing up was that I was so defiant, and it took me about 50 years to go, well, thank God I was.